Hi again, everybody. This is 100 Yards of Football's Prospect Profiles. I'm going to be your host today, Brian LeBel. Below me, I have the talented Vincent Turner. I have the talented Joey Clinkscales. And listen, guys, this is kind of our bread and butter, right? Going into the thick of it. I know it's a little too early, right? We're going into week 6 in the NFL season, right? But I don't think if you're a GM, Joey, you can attest to this. You never stop, right? At every single point, you're going to be going in and you're going to try to evaluate talent and always trying to get better. And today we got a couple of really talented guys who are shooting up draft boards left and right. It kind of depends on who you talk to, right? And we got Francis Mauigoa, tackle out of the University of Miami. Now, Miami's playing some good football right now. They're kind of the toast of the town, at least in the ACC. I think they're ranked number 2 right now, depending on which poll you look at. And the offense has been spectacular. I think Carson Beck will tell you this might be one of his favorite guys on the roster. Joey, I'm going to start with you. Francis Mauigoa, what are we thinking?
Well, Francis is a big kid. He's 6'6". They list him at 335. Prototypical offensive line size, especially at tackle or guard. He's played good football this year. Not, in my opinion, as a scouting director and assistant general manager, not a dominant performance, but there are a couple of reasons why, to be honest with you. So Miami consistently plays out of a 2-point stance. Okay, so as an offensive lineman, it's really difficult to be a drive blocker to displace people on the line of scrimmage when you're playing out of a 2-point stance. Okay, even on goal line, they're playing out of a 2-point stance. So that is a little bit of a inhibiting factor of why he doesn't have his hand in the dirt, driving off, moving people, resetting the line of scrimmage. So he doesn't show that. Now, can he do it? It remains to be seen. He just hasn't done it. So that those issues are a little bit of a concern for me. Now, he does have good foot movement, not a heavy punch as an offensive lineman, but he can stay in front of guys. He's a wall and seal guy, and he's strong. It's like blocking out the sun. Once he gets on you, it's hard to get around him. So that's how they function as a offensive line group and how he functions as an offensive lineman. I'm really not sure if his final position when it's all said and done is not a guard instead of a tackle. Because with that size and with the ability to maul, which he can do, I think it's probably a little more valuable at guard rather than tackle.
Vincent, are you thinking the same thing? I mean, this is a kid. Listen, Miami's number 2 in the country right now, right? They're playing really, really well. A lot of eyes on this team. They just swept the state of Florida, right? Not every team, but as far as the big 3. Francis Mauigoa, thoughts?
Francis M., I'm gonna say this: he hasn't played up to his level of potential that we knew he could play, that he played last year. So I'm gonna go a little bit different. Of course, I'm not gonna go up against the master himself because he got 20-some years of experience, and I don't want to look crazy tonight on air. But I'm gonna say this: I'm gonna go off last year what he done. To me, he was a much better player this year. As Mr. Clinkscales said, he's been average, but I like the freakazoid about him. Song by Midnight Star. He's only 20 years old. He's got a 30-inch vertical. He's a lot of people saying he's a 5'3" guy, 40-yard dash, 6'6", 315 pounds. That's pretty fast. I mean, 335. That's pretty fast. But he reminds me, I'm gonna go old school. A lot of people might not heard of him. Leon Gray. That was a tackle for the New England Patriots back in the day with John Hanna. I think they led the league in rushing for like in the mid-70s, like 4 or 5 straight years. And that's who Mr. Francis M. reminds me of. And remember they have put out some good offensive linemen, tackles, Leon Searcy and Brian McKinley. So that being said, of course, like Mr. Clinkscale said, he can play a lot more better. But Miami's ranked number 2 in the country, so they winning. Back to you, Brian.
Joey, right now, he's kind of a combo guy, right? You ask kind of anybody within, the Hurricanes, I want to say organization, but anybody that's around the football team, they'll tell you he can play inside, he can play outside. Now, the tape hasn't been perfect this year, right? You could say it probably hasn't been as good as it's been in the past, but does that help him being a combo guy? Because if you're a team saying, hey, listen, because we talked about, if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they slid their starting center over to left tackle the first couple of weeks, right? Being able to mix and match and move guys around, having that versatility is a big deal at times. Now, obviously, I heard Booger McFarland say the other night, his quote was, "It's great to have depth until you need to use it," right? But having a guy on the offensive line like this who can move around and give you really anywhere, right, other than center, and we don't even know if he can play there, but does that help him? Is that something that teams are really looking for? Is it something that maybe pushes him up draft boards, even if the tape isn't as good as it needs to be?
Well, you're always looking for guys who can be combo players, okay? Because really and truly, the way the backup players make the team is they have to be combo players, because nobody is going to be only a guard. That guard has to be a swing guard and be able to play center. Because if the center goes out, probably they're moving, instead of bringing in the second center, they're probably bringing the second center is probably the left guard. They're moving him over. Right. They're bringing another guard in or another tackle in. So it's all interchangeable. So you have to be a multifaceted player from that standpoint to be able to play different positions. Now, that being said, what most people don't understand, unless you're really a football junkie, is that playing guard is a faster game than playing tackle. Playing tackle, you face the better athletes, but playing guard, the game is quicker, okay? You have a lot of twists and stunts going on. You have a lot of things happening at a fast pace. So that guard has to be a quick thinker. He has to be able to think fast on his feet, because things happen quick. So the fact that if he's able to play both, it will certainly be an asset, a feather in his cap.
I'll say this, though, Joey, tackles make more money, right?
Without question, because they're playing the best athletes are on the other side of them.
Vincent, your thoughts, final thoughts here? Any rebuttal, anything you want to say about Francis Mauigoa?
Hey, I heard the kid has outstanding work ethic, and he's got great leadership qualities. The team loves him, but a lot of people feel like he hasn't played up to his level. You know what? I'm going to be watching the University of Miami in the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to take Mr. Clinkscales' advice. I'm going to watch what he do in the line of scrimmage. Back to you, Mr. Brian LeBel.
Well, the Hurricanes have been rolling so far in the season. We got Louisville, Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pittsburgh to close out the season. All their heavy hitter games were kind of early on, right? So the tape hasn't been great, but he's playing the best competition that he's possibly going to play probably early on, right? So maybe he cleans up, maybe he gets a little bit better. But fellas, moving on, defensive tackle Peter Woods from Clemson, right? This is a team that, now I'll say this, Clemson's kind of reeling. They haven't been, I don't want to say up to snuff, but in the Dabo Swinney era, I don't think it's been this bad, right? But the defense has been good. Defense has kept him in almost every single game. So, Joey, I'm going to start with you. Watching the Peter Woods tape, what do you think prospect-wise? Because, I mean, listen, if Clemson loses another game or two, he's already in NFL draft mode, right? He's saying, hey, we don't really have a chance to win the ACC. Playoffs are probably out of the mind. So, it's going to be here sooner rather than later.
Well, both of these guys we're talking about are juniors. So technically they could come back, but they most likely will not. Peter, as the Clemson team, has underachieved a little bit this season. He doesn't have a ton of production. Now, he's a kid that's got heavy hands. He has really got heavy hands. He's strong. He has some first step quickness at times. Sometimes he dances at the line too much, trying to see what's going on, and not play as aggressive as he could be. But he's a 3 technique, 4 eye kind of player that has, again, great get off and great strength. You just wish he finished plays better. And what I mean by that is not that he's not hustling to the ball and he's not doing this. Sometimes he'll not do it as hard as he could, but that's all those guys, especially down in Clemson when it's really hot this time of year and they're playing in a rotation. But you would like to see him finish plays. He's close. He's there, not make the play, or he's there, he make the tackle. But he doesn't have any sack production right now, and really has limited tackle production right now. So Peter can be better as an individual player. Clemson can be better as a unit, but they've underachieved as a team. So all that kind of goes hand in hand.
Vincent, Clemson's been bad. Peter Woods, good player, right? He's a guy, a lot of the big dogs on ESPN and the ACC network, player to watch. Might be a top 25, 30 player in the country. I heard people say that. Your thoughts on Peter Woods?
Well, basically what I've been hearing, he's losing money. For the season start, they talking about this guy being a top 5 pick, the best D tackle on the board. But reading over some articles from this past week and watching with social media, they say he underachieving. They say he's not getting off blocks and he losing money. And they said he's fell out of the first round into the top half of the second round. And I want to say to myself, fellas, maybe it's contributing because Clemson is underachieving. Because remember, Sweeney came into the season running the mouth saying this might be his best Clemson team, and they might win 16 games in a row and be the first team to go 16-0. That hasn't happened. And then what really surprised me, how poor the defense played against Syracuse. And when you look at this young man, he's got everything you want as a D tackle, 6'3", 315. They say he's 4'8" in the 40, 700-pound squat on squatting. Then they say he can do 225 34 times. Vertical jump, 33 inches. He won four state championships in his years at Outback to Alabama. He everything you want. When I looked at him last year, I said, man, he like Geno Atkins that played at Georgia, had a great
Yeah.
career with the Bengals. Then sometimes because he played defense and defensive tackle, he had that quickness like John Randall with the Vikings. But coming into this season, like Mr. Joey said, he hasn't did nothing. He's losing money. So, Mr. Woods, it's time for you to wake your game up. Because you're going to keep falling if you don't play better. And this is a better football player that he's shown on tape so far this year. Back to you, Brian.
I will say this for him. This is a very good defensive tackle class. You can go back and look at Reuben Bain in Miami. He's been fantastic. He's jumping up a lot of boards. A lot of people saying he might be the number one player taken in the draft. I don't know. Defensive tackles typically aren't there, right? We're going to reach for quarterbacks as usual. But then you got the cat, TJ Parker, right across from him, who's another prospect who a lot of people really, really like as well. Joey, does that hurt him, having a guy across from him that's still playing really well? Maybe a lot of people are looking down on him saying, hey, maybe it's not just him and maybe it's a complementary piece and maybe he's playing better. Because we say that in the NFL about a lot of guys who, you're playing across a Micah Parsons or an Aiden Hutchinson, right? You're going to get a lot more one-on-ones and have a lot more opportunities. And those guys that make everybody better. Is that hurting him, or is that just something that maybe, maybe it's the other way around? Maybe he's a complimentary piece on the other side.
Well, I'll say this. If I'm being totally honest, the guy that stood out on tape on defense was number 13, Will Helt. He's another
Purdue
junior.
transfer.
He's the kid that jumped off the tape. These two guys didn't. I saw some really outstanding splash plays by that kid, and he's 6'6", 260. So if you're telling me that those two guys are the best players, now I'll buy that because, hey, you have to win in the trenches. But this other kid who I wasn't even looking for, kept showing up on tape. So defensively, they have some pieces. You just don't know why they aren't performing at a high level, because their defensive line was supposed to be the strong point of their whole team, was the defensive line. And I'm not saying that it's not. It just hasn't been a difference maker at this point in the season.
Okay. Now I will say this. Coming in, everyone said, hey, Clemson's got 2 or 3 guys on their defensive front seven that are phenomenal, right? We're talking top 25, top 30 players. Now, a lot of these lists also had Arch Manning and some of these guys at the top, and we've seen how that's gone so far, right? So you take everything with a grain of salt. But, Vincent, you mentioned the Syracuse game. Other than that, they only gave 17 points to LSU. That was a dogfight. The offense didn't help them out a lot in any capacity, right? They're on the field a ton. Like Vincent said, like Joey said earlier, you're playing in South Carolina, you're playing in the Southeast, a lot of these games. It's hot, it's difficult, you're rotating in and out, so they're trying to keep guys fresh, but they played well against Troy. The defense did. The offense, again, that's a theme for Clemson, but they played really, really well against North Carolina last week. Is this something to where if the defense keeps playing well, maybe we give them some slack, Vincent, because the offense has been so bad? Listen, they've been on the field a lot more plays than they're probably used to, and they thought they would be. Football's you got to play offense, defense, and special teams, right? And the defense, for the most part, has done their part. But do we give them some credit, some slack there because the offense has been so bad?
I'm going to say this. See, again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Dabo came into the season. Coach Sweeney said they were going to go 16-0. They played good defense against LSU. I'll give you that. But I'm going to go back to it again. They should have beat Syracuse, and their defense didn't play well. And to me, you're right, Brian. They played well defensively against Troy. But in critical times a couple of weeks ago, they made Georgia Tech famous. Haynes King, I believe, had what, almost 100 yards against that D line. Now, you going to tell me before the game that Georgia Tech offensive line better than Clemson? Nope. So basically, what I'm saying, Clemson hasn't played in the games that's mattered with that type of NFL talent that they said they had. Pete Woods, if you go back to the draft boards, there's one draft site out there, Walter, NFL Draft Con, they had him in the top 10. They had his friend TJ Park, I think, number 12. But all I'm saying is this right here, that Clemson, we all know they should be being playing better in the bigger games in which they did against LSU. But to me, they let me down in Georgia Tech, how Georgia Tech ran the football. And to me, Syracuse is unacceptable. That just you too good of defense and football team for that. But I would say this: what's so great about college football? You still got time to clean the boat. You still got time to get your money back up. Pete Woods needs to play better, man. He's a really good football player. And if you go back last year, look at that right there. I like that graphic what you got, Brian. Look at that, how he handling Lenore Sellers. That's the Pete Woods we know. But reading from what reading over the articles, they said that he's had problems getting out blocks this year. And most of all, he has not been the same player he was last year. And it could have been contributing because Clemson is underachieving. But I don't know it all. I'm just Vincent Turner, a country boy from Memphis, Tennessee, representing the 901. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, Joey, I'll say this. Listen, the tape hasn't been great. You said that. Vincent said that. Is there anything Peter can do in your eyes? Is there anything going forward you want to turn on the tape next week? And is there anything, if he's watching here, is there anything you want to see? Is there any improvement specifically? You said, hey, listen, if he starts to do this a little bit better, maybe he creeps back up into the conversation for early first round.
I want to see him make plays and make plays consistently. And what that entails is his ability to get off blocks quickly and affect the quarterback. Reset the line of scrimmage. Now, some defenses, I'll say this. They play an attacking defense from a defensive line perspective. Some defensive lines catch, okay? They aren't a catching defense. They are an attacking defense. So I need to see Peter, from my perspective, impact the quarterback by resetting the line of scrimmage, playing violent with his hands, and making plays. You know, football's a violent game. Let's be real. Football's a violent game. Play with violent hands. You're at a violent position, which is the defensive line. Beat the guy over you. Affect the quarterback. Get the quarterback off track. Okay? Get him off the spot. Make him move. That's your job, Peter. Even if it doesn't result in a sack, it results in a hurry. Get the quarterback off the spot.
Joey, maybe Dabo needs to get you one of those Clemson visors and a whistle. Maybe you need to be over there on the on the sideline there Monday through Thursday, getting him motivated. Because I'm ready to go extend and go hit somebody and fill a gap right now. Vincent, your final thoughts on Peter Woods? You know, he's got the intangibles, right? He's got size, he's got strength, he's got pedigree, he's got everything, right? Clemson's still a powerhouse, right? It's a down year for them. We still consider them a top team, especially in the ACC. What more does he need to do? Where do you think he falls in the draft when it's all said and done?
There's still a lot of football left, man. Even though Miami is undefeated, I think Miami is still going to lose a couple of games. That's just my opinion. I think Clemson, the season's not over with. You got to start playing better. And Peter Woods is one of the main guys. He's a captain on that football team. And for me, if I'm close to him, I'm a family member, I'm telling him, Pete, you losing money, man. You falling. Get your game together. You're a first-round talent. You can earn a contract that can take care of generations forever. But you falling in the draft. Just like you brought up a good point, Brian, they're probably the point of the day. Look how we was talking about Arch Manning before the season. Can't miss talent, generational talent. Okay, what are we saying now about Arch Manning? Oh, Quinn Ewers should have never went pro. He should have came back for his 6th year. Pete Woods, don't fall in that trap, my brother. You're a very talented football player that right now, from the articles I read this week, they say he's dropping in the draft. When you drop to you coming from a top 10 pick, now you at the top of the 2nd round, You keep playing bad football, then you go in the third round. For you know it, you're gonna be a fourth or fifth round pick. Back to you, Brian. My final words.
I will say this. I don't think the Manning family is missing out on any generational money, right? I think they're good. Every other
Yeah,
commercial, I still see Peyton and Eli, right? I think they're
yeah,
set. I think they're going to be okay.
yeah.
Joey, last question to you. It's the same thing. Where does he end up? How do we see it, unfolding from here? And I mentioned the intangibles, right? It's still there. It's just maybe it's just something that maybe a little down year here and there. It happens, right? But where do we think he ends up, and what are your final thoughts on Peter Woods?
Well, it happens. It's a long process. So after the season, despite whether Clemson makes a bowl game, is a winning record, or they don't. Okay, despite that, we're going to evaluate how he played the game. We're going to evaluate the kind of kid he is. We're going to figure out his demeanor. We're going to figure out his coachability, whether he's doing what he's asked to do or whether he's doing his own thing. Okay, and then we're going to test him. We're going to give all those. We're going to do all those testings, not only psychological tests, but we're going to do all the physical tests, the 40s, the bench press, and we're going to determine what we have on our team and if he can help, given the scheme that we run. If he passed all those with flying colors, he'll be a first-round pick. Despite limited production, he'll be a first-round pick because the thing he has that you can't teach is size, the physical demeanor that he has, the violent hands that he has. And some coach will say, I can get it out of him. Okay, every defensive line coach or every offensive line coach you will ever meet will say, he's got these traits. I can get the rest of it out of him, especially if he's the right kind of guy. So it's a long process. We've got a long way to go, but he needs to pick up his tempo.
I will say this. My final thoughts on Peter Woods are Clemson's going through some adversity right now, right? No one thought they'd be 2-3 at this point in the season. I don't think a lot of people thought they'd have even one loss coming to the, almost the halfway
Correct.
point in the college football season. If you're going to go high in the first round, more likely than not, you're going to go to a team that's probably not very good, right? You're going to have a lot of losing, a lot of adversity. You're going to have to take your lumps. It is what it is. Sometimes you got to suffer through losing to learn how to win. Unfortunately for them, Clemson's kind of done a lot of winning, so they're kind of going the opposite direction. But Peter Woods, still tremendously talented. We ripped on him a little bit, but like what Joey said, I still think he's going to be a first-round talent. I think someone is going to be very, very happy to have him on their roster coming next April. Well, gentlemen, if that's all we got, it's been a lot of fun. For Joey Clinkscales, for Vincent Turner, I'm Brian LeBel. This has been our Prospect Profile Show. We'll be back at it again next week. 2 fresh faces, and we're going to give you some insight. Obviously, it's never too early to do so, and we look forward to seeing you then.